Mataji, you can ask your question.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanyavad Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, actually, it was mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavata yesterday that in Chaitanya Sampradaya, in Shankara Sampradaya, when the devotees become sannyasis, they don't, they usually feel that they are the supreme, supreme Lord, but it was not the case in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not feel like that. Even though he has become sannyasi, he was thinking, it's a kind of, he was thinking like a devotee. He's not thinking like he's the supreme lord. So what is the Shankara? Does really Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come from Shankara Sampradaya? So if so, what is Shankara Sampradaya, and is there any relationship with this Shankara Sampradaya with Shankaracharya Sampradaya? Can you please explain, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. So Shankara Sampradaya refers to the Sampradaya of Sripad Shankaracharya, which mainly propagates the monism or impersonalism. And there is lot of what do you call philosophical speculation in their sampradaya, but the summary of, or I can say the essence of their sampradaya is danda grahana matrena naro narayano bhave. If a person takes the sannyas order, he becomes as good as Narayan. They say literally he becomes Narayan. So, and therefore the sannyasis in the Shankar Sampradaya, they're very proud and arrogant because they think that they have become Narayan. And their prime duty is to read the Sharirika Bhashya commentary by Adi Shankaracharya. So they don't have the proper understanding of the scriptures, that the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme. They think soul, God, everything is actually one and same. So that is the essence of their. And in order to realize that, one has to take sannyas. So in Shankara Sampradaya, there are no grihasthas, though no place for grihasthas. No. It's only brahmachari then sannyasis.
And does Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also belongs to that sampradaya? That's what is mentioned, as if he has come from that sampradaya, but he's still feeling that he's a devotee.
Yes, so because that was the most prominent sampradaya that time to take sannyas. In order to get recognized as sannyasi, it was the most prominent sampradaya. So therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also took sannyas from Shankara Sampradaya. And in Shankara Sampradaya, there are 10 different titles they use. So Saraswati, Puri, Tirtha, Bharati, these are different titles they use for sannyasis. So Saraswati is considered first class, but Bharati Sampradaya is considered inferior. So though they say everything is one, but they also have discrimination that this is higher, this is lower. If everything is one, there shouldn't be no discrimination. So that very fact that they consider, some title as superior or some title as inferior, their whole philosophy is a failure, that everything is one. So, therefore, you see in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, when Lord Chaitanya came to Nilachal, Sarva Bhattacharya, feeling a lot of affection for Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to reinitiate Lord Chaitanya in Saraswat Sampradaya, because Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas from Bharati, Keshav Bharati Maharaj. So Bharati Sampradaya is considered inferior, though it also belongs to Shankara Sampradaya only, but it was considered inferior. So therefore, Sarva Bhattacharya, feeling a lot of affection for Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to bring him to the first class sannyasa order. So even in their monist philosophy, though they say everything is one, there is no difference, but there's a lot of discrimination, which indicates that even on the sannyas level, there is a failure to practice what they actually believe or preach. And even from practical purposes, everything is not one. Even though, like, say for example, in our, every country all over the world now, there is a law that everybody should be treated equally. But everybody is not treated equally. everybody has equal rights, but everybody doesn't have equal rights. For example, if take a simple example, if you are boarding, if you go to board in the flight, in the airport, there's a discrimination, right? If you say everyone is equal, everybody is same, then why is it that they invite that, okay, ladies with small children and pregnant, they should come first? Or then military people are invited to come first, or first class people are invited to come first. There is a discrimination. And that discrimination, we understand, is not inappropriate. It does exist. No? And we cannot simply treat everyone or artificially try to make everything as one. Even if you simply take, say wheat as a grain, simple wheat grain. If you crush it, it becomes dalia. If you further crush it, it becomes semolina. If you further crush it, it becomes wheat flour. If you further crush and refine it, it becomes white flour. The same one ingredient. How you crush it, it actually makes a completely different ingredient. And again, you take one of those ingredients, like say chapati flour. If you take chapati flour, make the dough out of it, put on tawa, it becomes roti, and fry it in the ghee, it becomes puri. So actually speaking, everything is one, is only philosophy of the fools. And mostly all these people who believe that everything is actually one, or impersonalist philosophy, they fall in the category of these foolish, because they don't have even a common sense that everything cannot be equal or one. So that is sum and substance of their philosophy. They think if a person accepted sannyas, he has become Narayan, he has become God.
Very nice, Prabhuji. I really understood now. So later on, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's request, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken sannyas from again Ishwarapuri?
No.
Huh.
Lord Chaitanya did not get reinitiated, but he transformed Sarvam Bhattacharya. It's a beautiful pastime. We are reading in the evening, so when due course of time we reach, we will understand. But when Sarvam Bhattacharya put the proposal that he wants to reinitiate Lord Chaitanya in the Saraswat Sampradaya, all the devotees were very hurt. They actually, one of them actually, who was actually brother-in-law of Sarvam Bhattacharya, Chandrasekhar, he chastised him. He said, what nonsense you're talking, Sarvam Bhattacharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of God. He doesn't care for any first class or high class or low class sannyas order. And of course, then Lord Chaitanya had a conversation with Sarvam Bhattacharya, and he transformed Sarvam Bhattacharya through his conversation. That conversation is also very beautiful. We'll come across those pastimes when we are reading the evening talks.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Prabhuji, then he did not also add Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bharati at the end, right? I mean, he didn't get initiated, another initiation, but still, he was not also adding Bharati to his name.
So this is actually explained by Bhaktisant Thakur very beautifully in the commentaries, that generally when sannyasi takes sannyas, he'll take one of the titles. So sannyasis have 10 titles, and brahmacharis also have certain titles. So Chaitanya is the title given to Swarup or Chaitanya. These are the titles given to brahmacharis. So Lord Chaitanya, indicating the Vaishnava Siddhanta, after accepting sannyas, he did not change his name. So his name as a brahmachari was Shri Krishna Chaitanya, because in Shankar Sampradaya, before taking sannyas, one has to take the brahmacharya initiation. So when Keshav Bharati Maharaj initiated him and gave him name Shri Krishna Chaitanya, that was Chaitanya name is for brahmacharis mainly. So he gave him that name, and he wanted to give him sannyas, and after giving sannyas, Lord Chaitanya did not accept the new name. He continued to accept Shri Krishna Chaitanya only. So indicating that after accepting sannyas, one does not become Narayan. He still remains the servant, because brahmachari's title is servant. Brahmacharis generally in Vedic culture, they serve the sannyasis as servants. So Lord Chaitanya wanted to teach his philosophy that living entity by constitution is servant. So he did not accept the Bharati title, though he took the sannyas from Keshav Bharati Maharaj. Though he accepted sannyas, from Keshav Bharati, but he did not accept the Bharati title. He remained as a brahmachari title sannyasi.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. But then who is the spirit? I mean, Ishwarapuri is who's spiritual master then? Ishwarapuri?
Ishwarapuri is the initiating spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya in his household life. That's a Vaishnava Sampradaya initiation he took. But as you said, Lord Chaitanya wanted to take sannyas. But sannyas, the most recognized Sampradaya 500 years ago was Shankara Sampradaya. Like, in modern times, the most recognized Sampradaya is, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So mainly Gaudiya Math and ISKCON are the two branches of that, where the sannyasis are most prominently recognized. So similarly, in those days, the most recognized Sampradaya was Shankara Sampradaya for sannyas. And because Lord Chaitanya wanted to preach his mission, he took the sannyas from the Shankara Sampradaya.
So initially he was initiated by Ishwarapuri, then later sannyasa initiation he took from Keshava Bharati Sampradaya. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, follow up to that, Prabhuji. I'm always confused. Means Mayavad and impersonalism is same or different, Prabhuji?
The same, Madaji.
Same, it's same. Okay.
There is little differentiation. The Brahmavadis are also called impersonalists. So impersonalists is the broader category which includes Brahmavadis and Mayavadis both.
Okay. And both philosophies same, that there's only means one. We and God.
There is some difference. There is some difference in the two philosophies.
Okay.
Brahmavadis are like Shukadeva Goswami or Chatish Kumara. They were Brahmavadis. They were not offenders. They never considered the form of the Lord as Maya. But Mayavadis, they think the form of the Lord is actually Maya.
Okay.
So they do not believe in avatara definition that is given in the scriptures. They think it's actually the impersonal Brahman who takes the form in the mode of goodness. And therefore, it becomes avatar.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, a follow-up question on this one, Prabhu. So generally after the initiation, they change name here, right, Prabhu? So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got initiation from Ishwarapuri, what was the name at that time?
That is never mentioned. I think the change of the name was the most prominent feature of Shankara Sampradaya. So, but there's no mention of if Ishwarapuri gave some new name to Lord Chaitanya.
Prabhuji, Vishwambara or something like that. Chaitanya Prabhu's first name is that, right?
No. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had all these names given at the time of birth. Vishwambhar, Nimai, Gauranga.
Chaitanya also?
No. Shri Krishna Chaitanya was a name given to him by Keshav Bharati Maharaj during the time of sannyas.
Prabhu, there is a lecture by Banu Maharaj on Diksha. So he says there, those days in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the only element part of the Diksha was just giving the mantra. Just the Guru gives the mantra and then it's done.
So that's what I understood. Changing name was the most prominent feature of Shankara Sampradaya. Which is adopted by our Gaudiya Sampradaya as well, because it helps to give the names related to Krishna. The devotees don't give the names which are Mayavadi names, but the Vaishnava Sampradaya accepted this feature of adopting new names related to Krishna or his devotees, which is good in one to help us to remember Krishna and his devotees. Yeah, thank you, Vijay Prabhu, for clarifying that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, one follow-up question to this. The two things that I've means, what was the need of Lord Chaitanya to take initiation from the Sampradaya, which follows the philosophy which is exactly opposite of what Lord Chaitanya follows? Okay, that is one. And point number
So let's
two
deal
is,
with this one question. Okay, first.
yeah.
So according to time, place, and circumstances, even the Lord follows the rules of this material world. Not only Lord Chaitanya, but if you see even Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya was also initiated in the Shankar Sampradaya only. Even Ramanujacharya was initiated in Shankar Sampradaya. And in fact, because Ramanujacharya was initiated in Shankara Sampradaya and he was opposing the philosophy of Shankara Sampradaya, his guru wanted to kill him. He tried to, conspire so many ways to kill him. So it is not something unusual. In those times when there is no other options available, and the whole mission is preaching mission. So then you need some, recognition. For preaching purpose, you need some recognition. Of course, Supreme Lord doesn't require any recognition from Sampradaya, but he behaves like a human being. When the Lord comes as in the human form, he behaves like a human being. Like Lord Ramchandra. If he wanted to go to Lanka, he's the Supreme Lord, right? He doesn't have to construct a bridge. If Hanuman can fly over, do you think Lord Ramchandra cannot fly over? So when the Lord comes to this world and performing his pastimes as a human being, he behaves like a human being. So as a human being, Lord Ramchandra, playing the role of a human being, he prayed to the Sagar to give the way. So the Lord actually accepts, when he accepts the role of a human being, he tries to follow the rules of the human society as much as possible. Not that he is bound. If he likes, whenever he likes, he can transgress those rules because he's not bound by those rules. But as much as possible, Lord tries to follow those rules. That's the reason why Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas from Shankara Sampradaya. Go ahead, Sachinand Madhav, you had something further.
Yeah. So the second question is, the people who follow this, that sannyasi becomes the Lord Narayan, the Shankar Sampradaya, what is their destiny?
Well, that's very
Because
complicated.
because they are following.
It's actually very complicated. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, they take the body of trees because they are in the ignorance, complete ignorance. Or if they actually follow the principles sincerely, they can go up to Brahma Jyoti, and from there, living in Brahma Jyoti for a long time, they again fall down. As Bhagavatam explains, Aruhya Krichena Param Padam Tata Patanti Adha Anadita Yushmad Angriya. Because they do not have respect for the form of the Lord, the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, because of neglecting the form of the Lord, they degrade. They come down to even after going to Paravyoma, even after attaining to the spiritual sky, they come back to the material world after some time. So, in general, they would enter into the body of trees, or they may go up to impersonal Brahma Jyoti and again fall down from there. So, there is no auspicious destination for impersonalists.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Really.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There is one more question from Radhakunda Mataji, but Mataji, can we take it later, this question?
Sure, Prabhuji, but I have forgotten what my question is. You must have printed it, but I am not able to see it on the chat, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji.
I will go later, finally, at the end. Okay, Prabhuji?
Okay, Mataji. Let me post it again. Okay. Okay. Prabhuji, I was having one question from yesterday, Prabhuji. So Can I go ahead, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Okay, so Prabhuji, my question was related to the like Parikshit Maharaj. We are reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which was like spoken by Parikshit Maharaj only. Means he knew the gist of bhakti, like till what he knows the gist that loving sentiment or to love Krishna is the greatest thing. So when he was cursed by Shringi during his last 7 days, instead of meditating on these pastimes, he preferred to hear Bhagavatam, which is starting from other pastimes. So just wanted to know, Prabhuji, like how this is connected. Means for a devotee, what is after attaining prema also, all these pastimes make sense, or how, Prabhuji? So just wanted to understand on that part.
Now, I think if you paid attention in the third canto of Bhagavatam that we are reading currently, now even there's a description that when the bumblebees, the bees start singing the glories of the Lord, all the birds and other living entity, they become completely silent. They want to hear the glorification done by the bees. So when a person becomes Vaikunthavasi, or a person actually develops the Vaikuntha consciousness, the eagerness is only to hear the glories of the Lord. And whenever and wherever a devotee finds, a Vaikunthavasi finds, there's a description or glories of the Supreme Lord going on, they eagerly rush there. They come there. They simply want to hear. They are not like in the material consciousness, a person wants to be prominently in the focus. And even if some katha is going on, somebody may feel, I want to be, giving katha, or I want to be giving speech. But Vaikuntha consciousness is, if the glorification of the Lord is going on, I forget everything else and simply focus and sit down and hear Krishna Katha. And especially from the eternal associates of the Lord, like Shukdev Goswami. It is such a great privilege, or it is such a great good fortune to hear the glories of the Lord. Therefore, when Shukdev Goswami started narrating Srimad Bhagavatam, at the beginning only, Devas came. The demigods actually came with pot of nectar. So they told Shukdev Goswami, if you want, please take this nectar and give it to Parikshit Maharaj, let him drink it, and you tell us the Hari Katha. So no snake bite will work on, Parikshit Maharaj, he'll be saved. And you can tell us Hari Katha, you can tell us Krishna Katha. So when Shukdev Goswami heard this, he's a Nityasiddha associate of the Lord. He became, he's naturally compassionate to all the living entities. He became outraged. He became so angry. He told the sages, throw out these demigods from this assembly. They are the greatest offenders to the glories of the Supreme Lord. They are comparing the Hari Katha with this mortal nectar of the heavenly planets. They have actually not understood the value of the Hari Katha. So throw them out. If they would have come simply to beg Shukdev Goswami that please allow us also to sit down and hear Katha, Shukdev Goswami would have been very happy, would not have been any objection. But because they wanted to compare the Hari Katha with the nectar of the heavenly planets, Shukdev Goswami couldn't tolerate that. He was very angry. So this is to understand the Hari Katha, or wherever Krishna Katha is going on. A Vaikunthavasi, a person who has developed Vaikuntha consciousness, doesn't value anything. In fact, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, if even Lord Brahma was to come and speak some subject matter which is not related to Krishna, a devotee would reject even hearing from Lord Brahma. Now just imagine if somebody comes to us and tells us, okay, I'll give you 10 million US dollars for one day you don't chant your 16 rounds. What would you do? Immediately accept the
You're putting me in dilemma.
But devotee like Shukdev Goswami or Parikshit Maharaj, they won't even have two thoughts. At first thought only they'll reject. They say, you keep your, what to speak of millions of dollars. Even if somebody is given the position of Brahma, the entire universe under your control, a pure devotee would reject it. Without even second thought, he would reject it. I don't have to chant the names of Lord Krishna. I don't want it. No matter what gain comes, I don't want it. And therefore, when Haridas Thakur, he was threatened by the king that you will be punished, because Qazi wants you to stop. He said, even if you cut my body to pieces, I will not be able to stop chanting the holy name. This is Vaikuntha consciousness. So a devotee who has developed Vaikuntha consciousness is not willing to trade, even to preserve the body. He doesn't want to willing to trade the hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord. That is the most precious treasure for a devotee.
Chat.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Prabhuji. I think although Parikshit Maharaj was aware about all this knowledge, but he more preferred to listen from a pure devotee, and that's what. Yeah, got it, Prabhuji.
Speak of Parikshit Maharaj, even Narad Muni, even Vyasdev, everybody was sitting in that assembly, and they were hearing from Shukdev Goswami. And Narad Muni is spiritual master of Vyasdev, and Vyasdev is spiritual master of Shukdev Goswami. So his guru, his param guru, everybody is sitting and hearing from him. So when a person speaks Krishna Katha, Vaikunthavasi speaks Krishna Katha, everybody loves to hear. There's no sense of, higher or lower there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Okay. Shachandran Madhav, Prabhuji, you can ask question.
Yeah. So, Prabhuji, my question is, when chanting is, as you gave us the example of $1 million and something like this. It was like really some, I don't know who said, but it was dilemma, but yes, it is dilemma. So one thing, the chanting is everything when rather 99% of your sadhana is chanting. So why things like reading scriptures and deity worship? These two things which takes the maximum effort. The lowest effort is given by only chanting. So these two things are given to us.
It's not true that chanting takes the minimum effort. In fact, whatever we do, including reading the scriptures, deity worship, or every other activity in our life, say simple act of cleaning the home, cleaning our body, taking shower, brushing our teeth, evacuating, all these are nothing but the supporting activities. There is no difference for a devotee. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that for a self-realized soul, even when he's doing his daily duties of evacuating, cleaning, blinking his eyes, all these activities are nothing but the activities of the body. But the soul is consciously observing all these activities which are supporting for the Vaishnava lifestyle. So say, for example, deity worship. Deity worship is essential for sadhakas. When a sadhaka is worshipping deity and a pure devotee is worshipping deity, there is a difference. There's a difference mainly in consciousness, but activity is more or less same. So a pure devotee may be offering food to the deities, and a sadhaka may be also offering food to the deities. But when a sadhaka is following exactly the same rules and regulations for cooking and cleaning and everything, and even offering process, his activity, even though not fully done in a proper consciousness, is still accepted by the Lord. So it's just like a sadhaka is practicing what he's supposed to do in the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, there are Ashtakali Leelas. They're not just, everybody is not simply sitting and chanting the names of Krishna. No. There are devotees who are cooking for Krishna, and while cooking, they're chanting the names of Krishna. They are remembering Krishna's pastimes. There are devotees who are, engaged in playing with Krishna. So even while playing with Krishna, they are completely absorbed in remembrance of Krishna. And there are, different devotees. Even the cows or different animals, the birds, the creepers, the monkeys in Vrindavan. Everyone is totally absorbed in remembrance of Krishna. But chanting is the most prominent feature of the spiritual world. They all chant the names of Krishna. May not be on japa beats directly. They don't need japa beats. Japa beats are for us to count. But when they come to the material world, they all take the japa beat and chant. So that's why you see even Gopkumara, when he comes to meet the Brahmana in Vrindavan, he's coming with japa beat in his hand and he's chanting the names of Krishna. Okay. So yes, chanting is the most prominent feature, but all other activities are non-different from chanting. In the perfected stage, there is no difference, because even while doing all other activities, the devotee is constantly chanting the names of Krishna. The chanting doesn't stop. But because in our sadhana stage, we don't chant always, therefore we have japa beats. Therefore we have a prescribed number of rounds. But chanting doesn't stop for the Vaikuntha Vasis. The devotees in the spiritual world, they never stop chanting.
Can you elaborate more on, little more on, say, deity worship and all those? How does it help us to be in conscious? Like, how does
first
it
and
this help?
foremost prominent feature of deity worship is it makes us approach the holy name of Krishna as a person. Otherwise, when I'm chanting, suppose every day Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there's a tendency to take the holy name in an impersonal way, because you don't see the person. It's very difficult even for the sadhakas who has been practicing for a very long time to comprehend how the sound vibration of Krishna is a person. It seems like a sound vibration. How do I understand the word Krishna is a person? So deity worship helps us to understand that, because a lifestyle. So you understand that the name that I'm chanting actually to address this person whom I'm serving here in the form of deity, for whom I'm cooking, to whom I'm giving bathing every day, to whom I'm cleaning, for whom I'm maintaining this temple or home. It's a person for whom I'm chanting this. Otherwise, there's tendency to be impersonal. So deity worship is a very strong way of connecting with the holy name on a personal level. And hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the Bhagavat Vidhi, because when we are chanting the holy name, there is again tendency to be neglectful to the holy name, impersonal to the holy name. But when we hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, how Ajamila simply even neglectfully chanting the holy name of Krishna got delivered, went back home, back to Gauri. So then we develop more impetus and strong faith that I must chant it attentively. If Ajamila got delivered inattentively chanting, if I chant attentively, it will be much, much more beneficial. So it gives us impetus. So therefore, Vaishnava Acharyas, especially like Bhaktivinoda Thakur or even Srila Prabhupada, they recommended that our practice of Krishna consciousness is called Bhagavad Vidhi. It's not simply chanting the holy names. And we should know that when we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or reading Srimad Bhagavatam or scriptures like Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's non-different from chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Yeah. Thank you. That was good.
Yeah. It's already 8, Prabhuji. So
We can stop here.
yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. So maybe if there are any more questions, you can take a note and we can
Yes, I think we covered all the questions, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vancha kalpataru, yasya kripa sindhu,